Welcome to the Now and Beyond podcast, hosted by Ryan Canfield, founder and president of Victus Wealth Management. Whether you're seeking financial freedom, investment insights, or simply looking to optimize your lifestyle, tune in for conversations that empower you to achieve a balance between enjoying the present and ensuring a resilient financial future. Welcome to a podcast where the art of living well today intersects with the science of planning for a brighter tomorrow.
I'm extremely excited to have you on today. I've known you for a few years now, but let's jump right in. So, what inspired you to start your entrepreneurial journey and become the owner of Konhaus?
Sure. So I started with our company in 2010. I came on board as my title was the results specialist. So I was in charge of going out and really people knew our company, but didn't necessarily know all the products and services we offered. So that was my job. I went out, I was at every event. I did lunch and learns. I was at the chamber events. We created all kinds of other events and really just educated the business community on who Konhaus was and the products and services we offered. And then, like it is at any other business, the longer you're there, the more responsibilities that just slowly creep up onto your plate. And before you knew it, I was really running the operations of the company. And I joined a national association for our industry. And it was from really spending a lot of time with the people at those yearly conferences with the business owners that said to me, "Why are you the owner? You're the one that's, out there doing the sales. You would be a great owner." And so I thought about it, had a conversation with my husband, talked to some of my friends, talked with some of my employees, and it made sense. We owed it, to the community, to our customers, to our employees to know that Konhaus is a strong name. It's going to be here forever. And so I sat down with the previous owner, who's actually our delivery driver today still. Um, and we just had the conversation and he agreed. And in 2019, I'm actually coming up January, will be 6 years since I bought it. It's
Wow.
crazy to think of. And I bought it in 2019, just before the craziness of COVID. So
Yeah.
it's been a wild ride for sure.
Yeah. So I want to come back to that. So like purchasing, the business right before COVID, but going to the trade shows and the conferences, as a young professional, how did you navigate, being able to connect with, because I imagine there was a lot of older people there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And in my situation, my industry is very male dominated as well. So I was dealing with males and significantly older than me. So as you can imagine, that is hard sometimes to connect. Um, Kind of funny story. Anyone that knows me knows that I normally, every so often, will have a boot on my ankle because I have an ankle injury. And I think I had it on a jingle and mingle just a couple of weeks ago with Shark Professionals. Um, so the first conference that I went to for the industry, I had just freshly sprained my ankle a couple days prior to leaving. And so I was in that boot, and that boot is what bonded me with a lot of people in the industry. And they were the sweetest, most caring individuals. Can I get the door for you? Let me carry your binder for you. Um, we even went on a bus to go to dinner the one night, and I had to go blocks. And this nice guy paid for someone on a bicycle with one of those things on the back to take me to the restaurant. So I didn't have to walk. So that, believe it or not, my ankle boot is what started the connection. And then we just sit down and had conversations. And, here I am, this young girl in my 20s, intimidated to sit down and talk with these business owners who've been in their businesses at this point longer than I was alive. Um, and I started talking marketing. And what I learned is they didn't know marketing. And they were just as excited to talk to me as I was to them. And so it's just blossomed into this amazing relationship with so many people across the country that we send each other Christmas gifts and we vacation with each other each year. And we're just there for each other and text each other all the time about different things. And again, it's so funny, they're in their 60s messaging me, asking me questions about marketing. And here I am asking them questions about purchasing equipment. So it's just funny how that all came together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny that like the walking boot is, kind of what broke the ice and stuff. But I
It,
know when I first started in my career, I would go to conferences and it was always, obviously male dominated, but it was older males. And, a lot of them looked down, like, what is this kid doing here? Like, he doesn't know anything. And, you know, they weren't really that welcoming. I don't know if it was they saw it as like a threat of like, here's this next generation that's coming up, like they want to take our jobs, they want to take our clients, instead of having that collaborative approach. So like I should have broke my foot before I went to a conference.
I'm telling you, there ended up being something good about that food after all. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, they've been wonderful. And believe it or not, from that conference, they actually invited me to come to the next conference as a speaker to present on marketing. So here I was thinking nobody wanted to talk to me, or I didn't have anything of value to share. And that really just blossomed, and then I got involved, and now I'm even involved with planning the conference.
Mhm.
I'm on the committee for planning that for the one association that I'm a part of. But yeah,
Wow.
great. It it's so funny when we think about our network. I learned a long time ago, not everybody in your direct life is going to be able to give you what you need. So like what you can't get from your employees, go find other people that are business owners that are kind of in your state. That's what I look at with that organization. And I've just learned so much, and they've given me the confidence to have the conversation with the previous owner about buying the company, and then just going through the entire process of buying that business, and then beyond. And they have offered to fly in from around the country to help me look at my software and how can we, make things more effective in production. And those relationships, I tell anybody, if you're in business, create friendships locally,
Yeah.
but find people in your industry too. And I mean, you'll be unstoppable if you can create those connections.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. I wish somebody would have told me that when I first became an advisor and launched my business was, not everybody wants to, is out to get you. There are people that's willing to share information and, help, and there's enough business out there, and that's one of like my biggest things now is like I always get asked like, why am I always talking to other advisors, helping them. I found myself last week on a call with an advisor for an hour, and I'm going through their website, giving them tips and pointers on here's some things that you might want to make different from your website. You know, I don't get paid to do that, but it's like I wish I had somebody when I first started doing that for me. So it's like I feel like it's almost like my obligation to kind of give back to, especially to that newer generation of advisors and business owners that are coming up. So, I applaud you for being able to find a group like that. Like that's huge.
Yeah. I think too, nationally, like you said, there are still some times where people are hesitant to share certain information. But when you're dealing on a national level, and like you said, there's so much business to go around, everybody really is representing different parts of the country. And, it's interesting what I do here and what really blossoms in my business. I'm surprised when I talk to other printers, they're like, really? We can't even sell that product. And I'm like, it's 40% of my business. What do you mean you can't sell it? It's just
Hmm.
crazy to hear those stories. So it's a great relationship to have. And I encourage anyone to go find that if they don't have.
And yeah. And build it yourself, if something like that doesn't exist, is like
Absolutely.
if you're looking for a group of other business owners and there's nothing out there, just take the time to build it yourself and turn it into something special.
Yeah,
It's awesome when you can do that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so okay, let's go back to so it's 2019, you purchased the business, and then I'll never forget it was March 13th, 2020. It's Friday the 13th. At least here, schools get shut down for, they told us 2 weeks. We knew it was going to be longer. Next thing you know, like it just seems like the business world kind of spiraled. How did how did you navigate that?
So I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't incredibly hard and difficult. I'm going to go back to that ankle because in January 2020, I had ankle reconstructive surgery. So fast forward, I had to go 8 weeks with the weight on my foot, and that led me right up to that date of March in 2020 that I was supposed to start my rehab, so to speak. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't go anywhere? I've been sitting at home for 8 weeks. What do you mean
Yeah.
I can't? So to figure out, okay, what do we do? At first, we shut down and everybody went home and we're like, we'll figure this out. Then we quickly learned we were considered an essential business because we print a lot of things for a lot of other businesses that were
Okay.
considered essential as well. So we immediately got to come back to work. Um, but to go through that and be physically hurting through a recovery, like that was just awful, absolutely awful. Um, and then just trying to navigate how do we keep people safe, but not just physically safe. How do we keep them mentally and emotionally safe? So there were days with my employees that I would let them leave early because it was a really nice day outside. And say, "You have to promise me you're going to go and take a walk. Don't pay attention to all this stuff on the news. Look for factual information. Keep your minds, really focused and strong because it can drive you crazy." And that was really hard. I just did my best to try to navigate everybody. And then in the middle of it, I'm gonna let you in a little secret that I haven't told a lot of people, but this is what this is about. So I'm gonna share with you. I did not have a formal lease with my landlord. We had been in our building for 20 some years. I remember talking with my lawyer when I was getting ready to buy the company. And I said, should I push to try to get some type of a lease? At the time, we wanted a new building space anyways. So he said, just kind of ride it out and we'll see. Fast forward, landlord drops over dead.
Oh my goodness.
No lease
Oh
in
no.
place. No lease in place. Um, so the family tried to take care and handle things for a while. Again, we'd been in the building for 27 years. One day I get a random letter saying they decided to put our building up for sale. No phone call. This is a family that we've had a relationship with forever. No phone call. Get this letter. And then the next thing you know, the next day the sign shows up outside. I contact my lawyer again, freaking out. What do I do? I have nothing to protect me. And he's like, it's going to take forever to sell that building. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Keep active, looking for a new space. So goes through that. The building sells in months, like couple of months time. We get this new landlord, absolutely awful. He chased everybody out of the building but me. And so on top of all of that through COVID, I had to find a new space to move to, pick up my entire company, move us. But in the long run, it ended up being the biggest blessing. We're in a new space, double the size of what we had. We really needed this space. We're actually almost at max capacity already. Have an amazing landlord now. Have a lease. We do have a lease to protect us. And yeah, so that was probably more than what you asked for, but that's just the reality. And being a business owner, the things that you sometimes come across that are unexpected. And that was one of them for me.
Yeah, how did your employees respond, in 2020 when you're telling them, "Hey, you gotta leave, go take a walk, do something for your mental health." Were they receptive? I imagine they were receptive. But did it help performance in the office?
I think so.
Okay.
With us being a smaller business, we kind of had a conversation. They talked a lot about being with like your immediate family and making sure that you're not surrounding yourselves around too big a hole. And I said, we're a small business. If one of us gets this, it can literally wipe out the entire company. So I look at all of you as part of my unit,
Mhm.
part of my immediate family. And we just had conversations and we're respectful to one another that, we tried to alternate things and I shared an office with Kyle. So for a while she was coming in and then the days that she wasn't in, like we would rotate. So we weren't both in the same tight space. Same thing in the back with production. They tried to just keep themselves spaced apart from one another. Um, People were scared, confused, didn't know what to expect. And then, of course, we had our customers coming that were also panicking. And I felt that it was our obligation to keep them just as calm as it was for us. I didn't want to see anybody coming in and just buying signs and flyers and postcards and sending things out to the masses because they just were worried about business and they didn't know what the future was going to hold. And so I had to remind people, like, let's keep breathing. let's think about this. If it makes sense financially, and I think it's going to help you marketing wise, sure, let's do it. But I don't want to see you just blow money because you're panicking that you might not get business a month from now. Um, and I think my employee, I can't speak for them, but I do think that they appreciated when I would send them, um, to leave early in the afternoon if we had a nice sunny day or something. Because mental health is everything, and I don't think we focus enough, and I don't think a lot of companies put enough energy into their employees when it comes to mental health, and we need to do that.
Yeah. No, you're 100% true. Like I go back to, 2020 and, we had a lot of older clients that were so used to coming into the office and, and for them, they were like, well, we'll just wait until all this blows over, and then we'll come see you. And then all of a sudden, the market didn't really do too well when, things really first started getting shut down and they're calling us up panicking. And, I was really concerned about their mental health, and
Right.
it kind of, as like in my role, it's like, what exactly can I do to increase like their happiness and their joy, and I think that was the first year that we decided that July is National Ice Cream Month. So we mailed postcards to every single client for them to go get ice cream, at I think it was two different ice cream locations,
Yeah.
and it was like, yeah, we can't actually hold an event, an in-person event, but ice cream shops are open. A lot of them were still outdoors. Um, Go in July, get a free ice cream cone on us, just to try to bring back smiles. And the response was phenomenal, so it was one of those things that we had to continue to do every single year. And we
I
just,
love that.
yeah, we just made it part of our marketing plan.
I love that. Yeah, my mom, she's obviously a senior citizen and she lives by herself. And I definitely saw the fear. I remember one time going over to her house and she was standing in the kitchen and I was standing outside and she did not want to let me in the house. And so I had to leave stuff out on her picnic table for her. And, that's concerning. So we eventually got to a point where I could get her to come out of the house and sit on her carport and I would sit on one side of the carport. But even from us and my business, I'm like, what can I do? What can I help um, that generation? And so we put a thing out there. We were sending sunshine to seniors and we sent Easter cards to anyone that they sent us the name and address. And I know it sounds stupid. It's so simple, but we just sent a greeting card and hopefully it gave them a smile to their face because it was a very lonely time for a lot of people.
It was, and that's what's so important. And I think that's what separates a lot of businesses and business owners and, the staff as well, is that extra step to think outside the box with something like that. So many businesses just focus on, well, we got to make a profit. We got to increase the profit as much as possible, increase revenue, decrease expenses, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like they forget that the customer and the client is still a human.
Mhm.
So, like, treat them like a human, treat them kindly, like, go above and beyond and do something. Like, it's not going to hurt anything.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep. You're 100% right.
so, um, can you share like a key decision or like a turning point in your business that significantly impacted like your success?
Hmm.
Is there one thing that you sit there and you're like, I know what it is. I know what that turning point or that key decision or anything.
I don't really think there is one thing. I think I've always said, and it's the same thing when it comes to marketing. I don't tell people to spend all their money doing one thing. I think you need to sprinkle around and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think um, consistency, showing up, um, communicating, I think doing all of that and bringing it all together, I think is what makes you be successful. And the consistency is what keeps you coming back around. So I wish I could give you one answer, but I really don't think there's that one aha moment that really defined success for me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome though. Um, all right. So like we always hear this statement about work-life balance. You know, you're a business owner, you have a ton of staff, you're out in the community, all the time. Everybody knows you. you're a wife. How do you how do you balance everything? How do you get time, like take time for Sarah?
Yeah, it's a great question too. This is something that I am still very much learning, and I put a lot of time and energy into it this past year. Um, when I first took over as owner, I felt a huge obligation because I went from employee to owner. Okay, that first year, I spent all my time and energy. I mean, I gave up so many opportunities to be with family and friends because I had to fix all those things that I complained about as an employee. In my mind, this is what I told myself. So then I said, going into 2020, I'm going to get this ankle surgery and then I'm going to live life. I'm going to enjoy things. I'm going to see everybody. And then bam, COVID happened. And it was like one thing after another. And then I had to move the company and then we had to get more equipment. And so I really dug a hole, I feel, for a while and I put myself in it. I stopped going to a lot of events because I just didn't have the time. And you hear people talk about burnout and, be careful. You're on your way to burnout. You don't want to get there. You don't want to get there. Well, I got there. And I'm being honest because I think a lot of people have got there or are close to getting there and they're not being honest and real about it. So I'm going to talk about it. And so this year was definitely a year for me. And I've learned an awful lot about understanding the balance. So that is not responding to emails after work hours. That is so incredibly hard. But we no longer allow ourselves to have a break beyond whatever that closing time is, 4 or 5 o'clock for our businesses.
Yep.
And when you start responding to emails at 9 o'clock at night, people know that you're available at 9 o'clock at night. And so that is one thing that I've had to do. I talk a lot about, the business that I'm in. I come in and I have all kinds of emails from people working at all hours of the evening and early morning. And my husband is in an industry where, like, when they shut down at the end of the day, they shut down and nothing is happening until they come in the next day. And so I really have to remind myself I need to be present for my husband. And so that's putting my phone away. And when we go on vacations, it's very hard because I'm used to being connected all the time. But typically my phone goes in the safe in our room unless we are specifically going to be taking pictures. And as soon as I go on the airplane and we go to like the Caribbean, my phone is in airplane mode, does not come out of airplane mode. That's a gift to my husband. I have learned to, like, you schedule meetings for everything else. You have to schedule time for yourself to do things
Always.
that are important to you, whether it's a massage or I don't know, even heck, going shopping. And so I have never scheduled days off. This year, I actually built days into the calendar, had no idea what I was doing, but I built days into the calendar so that I took time off for myself. And so boundaries is a big word. I'm really learning boundaries. And I'm really curious. Mel Robbins just came out. I don't actually know if it's been released yet or not, but it's the let them theory.
Okay.
And um, very, very interested to learn about that. Being a business owner, you're a fixer, you're a doer, you make things happen. And not everybody wants your advice, not everybody wants your opinion, not everybody wants you to fix everything. And sometimes you just need to step back. And so from a work-life balance perspective, that's also something that I'm hard, but I'm trying to let other people figure things out for themselves and not so much volunteering myself so easily to do things that others are completely capable of doing.
No, it's awesome that you like recognize that early on because I always look back and I'm like, man, when I first started, I was on all the time. I would get an email at 9 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and answer the email. I had a client who worked night shifts as a nurse. So 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning was when they were listening to the news. They would shoot me an email, hey, like, or they would call me and leave me a voicemail, and it would wake me up and I would respond back to the email and I'm like, what am I doing? Like nobody else is doing this, Um, and I go back to, we would go on vacation down to Smith Mountain Lake down in Virginia and you don't have cell phone service down there. And I found myself one time getting on a tube, floating out into the middle of the lake because I had to check my email.
The truth, though, it's what we all do.
Yeah.
We don't even realize, the sad thing is we don't even realize half the time that we're going to extremes like that
But you know
to
who
do it.
notices this? Your family.
Mhm.
And like, even, you know, as, as much as I hate to admit it, like in the last couple years, at nighttime, the kids come up to talk to me or they come home from school and this is me,
Yep.
and I'm like, trying to answer emails, talk to clients, I'm checking to see what the markets are doing, um, and like that's the first thing they see when they walk in the door from school is, oh, dad's got his head down, buried in his phone, and so like I have tried to make it a point where I don't have that many evening appointments. I typically keep one night a week open where the kids might have an activity, so I know they're gonna be occupied and I can do 1 or 2 meetings, but, you know, the one positive thing that came out of COVID was Zoom and virtual meetings, so it's normal now that, like, I have clients that will take a half hour Zoom meeting during the day. They're able to do that, where before we weren't able to, so it's helped me personally with my work-life balance, but it took my kids and my wife being like, "Hey, like, you can't always be working. You don't need to always be on. Take time for yourself and find some activity, that kinda get your mind off of business and work." And it's hard.
I think too, COVID also tying off with Zoom a little bit more. Um, we used to go to events all the time. That's what you did. That's how you mixed and mingled in the business community. And we had to obviously learn for a period of time how do you network outside of those in-person events. And so I think now that we are back and it's apparent people want to be at events in person again, but people are a lot more selective about what they're going to. And, we talked about this before, but people are waiting until the very last second to commit to going to things, either the day before, day of, sometimes showing up at the event. Not great when you're planning the events. You need to know counts for food and so forth, but that's just the reality. So I know it's the same thing for me. If I'm going to take time out of my day outside of my work hours, it's got to be a quality event with the right people, um, or I'm just not doing it. And so I think the organizations that are going to continue to be successful are the ones that are mindful of that. And instead of doing, 12 events a year, maybe you do 4 events a year, but they're really good quality events. That's going to be something people don't want to miss. And I think that's part of work-life balance.
That's really good advice because, like, I look back at some organizations and it's like, they're kinda just checking a box. Like, "Hey, I'm
Yep.
gonna have an event every single month just because we have to have an event."
Yep.
But really putting that thought into, "Hey, here's the 3 or 4 core events that we're gonna do. We're gonna do it right so it attracts the right people, gets
Yeah.
people talking that then maybe they wanna come back to another future event."
Yeah. Well, it comes down to planning too. Volunteers, you only have so much time in your day to plan things, and it's getting harder and harder to get people to commit to want to help and get involved with things. So again, instead of doing 12 events, do 4 events, and you'll have a better response rate, hopefully, for the volunteers that are helping plan that as well, because they're not going to take up as much time either. So
I've seen some companies mandate employees that they have to be involved in some type of community organization. They have to
yeah,
attend a certain amount of events, and the a lot of companies will still pay them. Say, hey, like, to next week you gotta go to this event. It's over lunch. It's an hour and a half long. Go meet some people. We're gonna pay you. We'll buy your lunch. We just need you getting out. And I feel like that's a really awesome benefit, because it's not only getting their personal brand out there as well, so that, like, they're building a personal brand, getting their name out there. It's helping the company, get out there as well. Um, but if they're an introvert and they're not used to going out there like that, it forces them to, um, which can be scary, but can also, like, I know me when I first started, like, I was an introvert. Like, I would go to a networking event and I would stand in a corner until somebody else approached me. Um, and I'm still similar to that a little bit. If I don't know a lot of people at the event and stuff, like, I won't go out of my way to say, "Hey, I'm going to this event where I know nobody." That terrifies me.
yeah,
Um, but trying to step out of my comfort zone, get a little bit more comfortable doing it, and The more events you attend, I think the better off.
Well, it's
Great.
also hard when you go to those events and people that know each other are there and they tend to cling to the ones that they know.
All the little groups.
Yeah, and
Grim.
that's the other reason why I pick and choose where I want to go because I want to make sure that I get time to engage with people, and it's very hard to like walk up and interrupt when there's a click talking. So I love the events that put in some type of a activity that kind of forces people to break up those groups and interact with one another as well.
Yep.
That helps with some of that awkwardness as well.
Yeah. Well, with you owning, a print and marketing company, I feel like I need to ask, um, you know, what what are some quick strategies, marketing strategies that you have found, effective for small businesses?
So I'm going to tell you, get back to the basics. Of course, I'm in print, so it's traditional marketing, but a handwritten note card. I mean, we are just in a world of email and social media and email blasts. And I don't care who you are, it is so special when someone sends you a handwritten note card, whether it's to try to schedule a call, just checking in with somebody, thanking them for their business. Something like that goes such a long way. Meaningful promo products, things that I say purpose with um, swag with purpose. And I mean by that things that people can use over and over again, but most importantly, it's going to keep your name out in front of them. Um, but it's really the basic things. For one, social media is a great, and it's also I hate it all at the same time. There's been so many times I've actually considered shutting down social media, but there's an important part of it because I am able to see what my clients are up to all the time. And it helps me check in or, hey, your daughter looked gorgeous in her homecoming dress, or like you, I feel like I'm at your kid's baseball tournament or cheerleading, cheer dad,
Yeah.
because social media allows us to have those opportunities. So, I years ago, people would say, "Oh, I don't want to be connected with clients on social media," but honestly, it can be one of the biggest blessings for you to know how to give someone a gift or how to check in with them and ask how things are going. So I say get back to traditional ways of doing business.
Yeah. Yeah. Print is huge. I get so many emails on a daily basis, and it's just like delete, 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 delete. Some of them keep going automatically to spam, some go right to junk. It's so easy just to press that button, but the physical mail, you have to physically walk into the trash can. Like I have to physically handle it and take it somewhere. And, you know, like there have been clients that I've had trouble getting in touch with. They don't answer the phone, they don't answer email. I send them a quick note card. Hey, I've been trying to reach you. We need to get together to talk about X, Y, and Z. And I put it on like in a nice note card, throw my business card in there. They respond. They call me immediately, or they shoot me an email, and it's nice. But so many people forget about that, and I don't know if because the email's cheaper, it's easy to do. But like so is writing a handwritten note on a piece of white paper, folding it up, put it in an envelope, stamp it, and send it.
I think you nailed it. Cheap and easy. I think a lot of people try to go the route because they don't want to spend money and they want something that's going to be quick and easy. But I say you need to do things that are meaningful and that are things that people are going to remember you by. Um, I think the other thing is, especially with small business, you don't have to spend a fortune on marketing.
Get
And I think
creative.
that's a misconception because when you look at SEO and social media advertising and video and ebot, like it's expensive, but people would be amazed if you would just do some basic things like note cards, um, how inexpensive that can really be. Sure, it'll take a little bit of your time, but the results that you're going to get, just like you said, by the follow up from people, it's going to be worth it every single time.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I have one more question, maybe
Yeah.
two more. But you know, So what's next for you? What's next for Konhaus? Like, where do you see your business and yourself in like the next like 5 years?
Well, we have a lot of exciting things. The one thing I learned through COVID is that print is very strong and it's not going anywhere. That was one thing that I think made a lot of people think about the industries that they're in. And if something like that ever happened, like, could we sustain it? Could we make it through again? And the answer for me is yes. I love what I do. I My team loves what they do. They're very good at what they do. And so we are looking to continue to grow and help businesses, associations, and organizations that um, align with our values and get what we bring to the table and help them. And there's a lot of services that are out there that we keep kicking around about adding. Um, and so I can't fully answer that question right now, but it will be a good one to follow because there'll be some fun stuff happening over the next couple of years, and we're excited to take the business community along for the ride.
That's awesome. Do you see yourself ever acquiring another business? Yeah. Stay tuned.
Possibly, possibly. Stay tuned. Stay
Yeah.
tuned for more.
Yeah.
I'd never say never. I'm in my 30s, so I got a lot of life to live. I'm not. I would love to retire tomorrow, but I know that that's not a feasible option. So,
Yeah.
but again, in order to acquire a business, I won't acquire just to acquire. It needs to be the right fit. Again, they need to have the same types of customers and employees that have the same values that we have to make sure that we all align and that'll be a good fit. But I'll never say never.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, one final question. So
Yeah.
everybody always says like, what keeps you awake at night? And I feel like it's always a negative answer. Everybody jumps right into, well, I'm nervous about this. I'm panicking about that. I like to ask, what gets you up in the morning?
For me, um, I would say I love what I do. There is nothing more exciting than getting an email from a client that says, because of you printing this and mailing this for us, we got X, Y, and Z in sales from this marketing campaign. Because of that, I now know that they can add another employee to their staff. Or when I get emails from our customers saying that they just had a baby or they just got engaged, or my customers, my staff, and obviously my family, my husband, my nieces, my nephews, and our friends. I'm very, very blessed. And so I, even on the toughest of days, I reminded that I love what I do. Marketing, I obviously have a passion for. And so that is the excitement that keeps me going every single day and drives me. It's those types of conversations, those emails, those phone calls that no, because of something that maybe we feel is so minor,
Mhm.
um, it really has such a big impact. And nonprofits, especially, we do a lot of work with nonprofits, and um, I wholeheartedly, nobody can never say that I don't donate, because I'm super involved with a lot of organizations and give back in as many ways as possible. Um, but to hear their success stories because of the funds that we were able to help them raise, there's no greater feeling in the world than that. And
Yeah.
so I will continue to do what we do because of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Sarah, I really appreciate you coming on. Where can people follow you, follow Konhaus?
Sure. Facebook and Instagram, we probably are the most active on. And I think it's just at Konhaus, or Konhaus Print and Marketing. Our website's konhaus.com. If you don't know how to spell it, Google it, Konhaus, and all kinds of stuff will pop up about
Yeah.
us. And I'm very active in all of it, so you'll find me somewhere.
Awesome. We'll have links connected to this, so people should be able just to click and go right to your pages. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Like I said, I appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for doing these podcasts. They're so important, and you cover a lot of important topics, and these just stories of business owners and their journeys. It's so important for people to be able to learn and grow from it. So thank you for doing them.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.